From the Studio 13 Studios in Splendora, Texas, Hank's Think Tank is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Quiet on set. Picture is up. All right, roll sound.
Rolling.
Roll cameras.
Cam's rolling.
And 3, 2.
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Hank's Think Tank. It is Friday, sometime early in October. I don't know the date exactly, but I think it's the 13th. So Friday the 13th, here we are. I have with me today Jerry Reasner, and he is running for a Roman Forest City Council position, and it's position number 3. And Jerry's a good candidate. He's been involved in city for a long, long time, done a lot for the city of Roman Forest, and I'm just glad to have him aboard. Welcome aboard, Jerry. How you doing?
Doing fine, Hank, and thank you so much for inviting me. This is kind of exciting. I've never done anything quite like this before.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's just, we're just two guys having a conversation. Yeah. So that's about it. So I like to usually lead with the main question. Why did you decide to run for city council?
Well, we truly enjoy the city of Roman Forest, and as you said before, I've tried to do things to help them along through the years. And I decided that maybe I should get in and try this, see what else, try running for city council. There's some things that over the years I would like to see upgraded, not necessarily changed.
Okay.
Some of the permitting for building and those kinds of things. I built a train room, and come to find out there's no option between other and a remodel. And the train room's in the attic, and it's not someplace that you can easily get to. So it's those kinds of things I think I would like to do some review on, and see if there's a way to further improve on some of the things that we have. I know that City Council right now is doing a lot of work in this area, and time they get done, there may be nothing that I'll want to talk about or want to change in any way.
Okay.
So I'm, kind of a believer, rather than grumble about it, do something about things if they need to be done.
That's effective government. We don't see that all the time.
Yeah, and it's not that I'm particularly unhappy, but I think there's always room for improvement, and I like to be part of the change. For those kinds of things.
Absolutely. It's interesting that permitting and ordinances have become a thing, because we started out and it was the park, and then it became the parks, because I didn't know about the other park. Hubbard Park. And so I think it's interesting that the topics have kind of shifted a little bit toward permitting and stuff. And, I don't live in Roman Forest. I do deal with a lot of individuals there, and I work for the city. And I know that permitting is important, and I know that it needs to be in place. But anytime you have something that's that sophisticated and that has that many working parts, it's always going to need some streamlining. Yeah. So that's a good idea.
Well,
get in there and work it out.
As you go along, you can make, what's the term? You can make some of the people happy some of the time, but you cannot make all the people happy all the time.
Yeah, that's just not going to happen.
And it's not going to happen. And I've had a lot of experience with Roman Forest, doing various things, and in previous jobs, management, dealing with all kinds of situations. It's in the service at Tinker Air Force Base, and they lost the air conditioning to the control tower. A bad thing to have happen.
Oh, yeah, I would think so.
So I found air conditioners that you roll up to B-52s and borrowed them and had enough help, and we drug conduit, not conduit, the silver stuff, that air conditioning vents, I guess, or hose, whatever it is.
Ductwork.
Ductwork up 200 feet of stairs.
Wow.
and cooled everything down. So, if something needs to be done, I'm going to see what I can't do to help.
And I know you've been heavily involved in their emergency operations during times of trouble when we've had floods and storms and stuff like that, because you're a ham radio operator, and you even set up a communication system there at City Hall, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then you also have joined the events committee, I think, and managed the whole parade.
Well, the events committee, we were early, maybe 2007. That's been some number of years ago. Our mayor at the time, Floyd Jackson, at one evening during a city council, announced that he could no longer get grants for fireworks. And I'm sometimes known for sticking both feet and both hands in my mouth at the same time, and made the announcement that, or I stood up and got recognized that maybe we could get private funding. And so before the evening was over, I was the chairman of a committee that didn't exist yet to raise private funds for the fireworks. And we did that successfully for many a year until it came out to the year before Valley Ranch. That was the last year we did them, I believe, before Valley Ranch started their fireworks.
Yeah, and that was a big fireworks show, too. Those things are expensive.
Well, ours was going to jump from about $11,000 to about $22,000, from my understanding. There was a lady, Cherie, who was in charge of the committee at that time, and Chief Carlisle, he did a great job of helping raise money. But at some point in time, you have to say, that's more than we can do. You have to know when to say uncle.
Sure.
And but the timing on that worked out well. We did continue to have our parades, and I guess it was maybe the year following when I was the chairman of the events committee, started that. And they still had the parades, but they were not real organized. They were there, but not as organized. And so again, I got with Floyd Jackson, and we laid out a plan to have the parade. Who should go where, and where we should start, and where we should end. And we did that for years.
Yeah, it turned out to be a big deal.
Yeah. And this last year was probably, we had more people in the median down by City Hall than I've ever seen. We had to change the location of the parade. Jackie Beck was probably she was in charge of the events committee at that time, but they had built all the houses along Appian Way. And we kind of decided that the people there wouldn't be happy if we blocked their driveways with cars and trucks and such as that, waiting to start a parade someplace else. They would probably actually want to be able to view the parade rather than have people block their driveways. So that's when it was moved to Dogwood School. Okay. And this is the second year we did that.
Yeah, I think so.
And there was a lot of lessons learned the first year. Porta potties turned out extremely important because no place to go. And so this year was the first year for porta potties. And Kelly Bird down at the City Hall was a great help in locating the most cost-effective solution, if you would, because there's a big difference in what people charge for those.
Oh, I'm sure.
And one of the things that we've always tried to do is be very frugal with how we spend the funds that the events committee raises, because there's a lot of things that need money that don't fall under things that the city can do with tax money.
I get you.
And so that's one of the reasons that we try to do some of the things that we do.
Okay.
And Deanna now, she's in charge of the events committee, and a very personable lady, and is doing a good job.
Great. So speaking of frugality, I know that the city of Roman Forest has a pretty sizable budget, and there's a lot of, let's just say, tentacles of expense that the city has. Do you see any places that you think that money should be diverted, or maybe there's some misspending or overspending? Do you see anything that you think should be created, maybe another budget line item or something? Because that's been brought up in a couple of discussions that I've had.
Well, I guess everybody has their own opinion about how they would like to see city money spent. I've looked through the budget, and until I become closer to how things where the money is really being spent, and because I know that just because you have money in a line item on the budget doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to spend that money.
That's right.
Or because you do have money there doesn't necessarily mean that you may not need more in a particular
Right.
line item. So there's a lot of involved pre-thought that has to go into that.
Okay.
The events committee, people think that we have our own bank account. We don't. We are a committee chartered by the city to help the city and have a line item. When you look at the city's budget, there's a line item, and the only thing in that line item for funds are funds that the events committee has raised, and the expenditures are things that the events committee has determined that they need to spend money on.
Okay. So 100% accountability. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
The some of the things that we need to look at in the future. I know that Hubbard Park was originally donated to be a park, and then,
Right. I like the idea of Hubbard Park. I need to go check it out.
Yeah. Well, it's a fair area. When that was where the antenna was that we, back about. Oh gosh, when
been
did
a while.
they do that? Yeah, it's been
a while.
probably
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
When we were approached, because internet access in the city, even today, is not the best it could be.
Right.
And so, gentleman from Iguananet came in and went to talk. He called Gordon Miller, who was the contractor, main contractor, and he wasn't sure what the guy was talking about. And I, after from 1965 to 2005, when I retired, I've been in either data communications or radio communications and dealt with routers when they were first brought online. Had a lot of communications things that I did. And so Gordon called me, and I talked to the fella and verified that, yeah, they did know what they were talking about. I was familiar with the technology and familiar with the equipment they were using. And so from there, we called Floyd Jackson. He was still a mayor at that time. And they eventually put up a tower out there for wireless internet.
Okay.
That company was sold, and somebody else picked it up, and there was some. The funds weren't properly transferred to the city as they should have been, and the city eventually had to cancel that contract. But there is still today under the dirt that also was. Hubbard Park was used as a temporary place to put some of the dirt when they took the dirt out of the ditches and such. And in the center of that is a chunk of concrete that's about 10 yards that when they go to clean that up, they'll need to go in. What needs to happen in Hubbard Park, it needs to have a dozer go in and clean it up and identify where because it got covered up, identify where the original concrete base for that tower is. Probably
And
10
those are
yards of
usually
concrete.
cubes.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of jackhammering.
Well, and there's no real, based on what they want to do, there may or may not be a need to even remove that. Plus there's 3, what they call dead men. There's 2 different kinds of towers when you look at them. You drive down the road. Most people don't realize. But a straight vertical tower that the legs aren't wider at the bottom
Right.
than they are at the top. Straight vertical freestanding tower requires guy wires. And so that type of tower is 200 feet, not quite 200 feet. The other type is the type that you see more often at cell sites where the base legs are far out and the top is little. Those
Right.
are freestanding. So you get both guide and freestanding. And so because that was a guide tower, there's around 3 different places out there that's also covered up and had huge pieces of steel with a place to attach the cable to on the end of them. And
Right.
those are out there. So there's still some concrete underground, but I don't see that concrete as being much of an impediment. Once the ground is cleared and it's determined what kind of things that is needed to make people happy. There used to be a tennis court out there years ago.
Wow.
When we first moved here, it was always lifted. I don't think there was any baseball, but I think there was at least 1 or 2 tennis courts out there that eventually got torn down.
So anything in particular you'd like to see at Hubbard Park? I
Um,
mean, do you have kind of a design idea in your head or anything for that?
there needs to be places out there. I don't think we need a second swimming pool, but I would certainly be nice if we had pavilions that people could go out and get underneath and have picnics.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not they would need to pay for them is who knows. That's right now they have
Yeah, they
to
don't
rent
need to be
places.
grand pavilions, just
No,
the
just
smaller
something,
ones. You have
yeah.
picnic table underneath. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Restrooms. The issue with some of these things is vandalism, so a plan has to be come up and devised to protect the assets. For instance, if you put, and we really need some kind of toilet facilities out there, have a way to fence that off to prevent.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
vandalism.
It's too bad you got to do that, but
Yeah.
it's still a good idea.
So, and there's a lot of things, but I think a place where a family can go out and enjoy themselves and have a pavilion, barbecue hamburgers or hot dogs or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think, we also need a place where people can take their dogs out and walk them or turn them loose. And it's common in some towns. Truth or
Right, just an
consequences.
offset place that's fenced in for a dog
They
park.
can, There's, of all places, first one I noticed was in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, down by the Rio Grande River.
Wow.
They had a nice one. They had grass, and they could take the dogs and turn them loose, and they could run in there, and it was a fair-sized area. The fence was big enough that they couldn't jump it, but be outside. They didn't have to be on a leash.
Right. Yeah, there's a real big one at Dewson Park at Lake Houston. And, that dog park is gigantic. It's got a little pond that they could run in. It's only about 6 inches deep, but it's concrete bottom and all that. And, those, watering stations, wash stations, everything. So it's a great place.
So it's those kinds of things that I think should go in there, family-oriented areas. But as time goes on and they get that cleared up, and that's something I don't know where the closest water or sewer is out there. That would have to be up to
that would definitely have
people
to be
find out where that's at.
Okay.
But
Well, I think that's a great idea. And the part that I like about it the most is since that area was donated to the city to be used as a park, it should be a park.
yes,
So I'm going to have to go and visit it and check it out. So is the tower still there, or they took the tower down? It's just a concrete base?
it's a concrete base, and it's not very big. It goes deeper in the ground, but they took the tower down after the city requested the contract be terminated, and they went and pulled the tower. There was a lot of steel there that, and they even though steel doesn't go for a lot, it does still sells, and there may have been tower sections they could have used. I don't know what the final disposal of that tower was.
Okay.
But-
So let's talk about internet for a minute.
Okay.
I have personally heard from a bunch of residents in Roman Forest that their internet's just horrible. And I do know that Comcast is building their infrastructure in Tavola. And I don't know if they're planning on bringing it all the way up to Roman Forest. I think they are, but I think it's a little ways out still. But would you be interested in or in a position to maybe discuss with Optimum and Comcast about that new infrastructure and maybe get a timeline and work with those guys to ensure that the citizens of Roman Forest as a whole, and not just up Roman Forest Boulevard, but back where they need it. Would you be willing to work with those guys to ensure that we could get some good internet out there?
I'd be more than glad to. I know that there's a push right now to improve internet out there, and our city administrator, Tim Underwood, who I'd like to comment, does an absolutely stellar job on how I don't know how he does everything he does.
It's magic.
But I
Magical
know that,
Tim Underwood.
he's mentioned that he's been involved with and they've run surveys in the past, been involved with the internet. But I'd be more than glad. I understand how cable works. I've had to design cable plants.
Right.
I understand when you get into fiber optics today is a far cry from how it was 20 years ago.
Right.
There's a lot of things. The issue is putting those facilities underground. Now you have wireless internet, people like Verizon, and T-Mobile is putting a big push on it. Problem with Verizon right now is they don't have any good facilities within Roman Forest for 5G, and you've got to get into 5G to start looking at replacing wired, as in coax cable in the ground or aerial or fiber. I've never seen fiber overhead. It's just not tough enough to withstand that. I don't think.
It's not feasible. But it's a powerhouse underground.
Oh yeah. And some of the newer neighborhoods are going fiber to the door.
Oh yeah.
Will they do that in the older undeveloped sections? It's a different ball game for cost, and it's all about the money.
Oh yeah.
It's a different ball
It
game.
always is.
Yes.
Yeah. Everything points back to the dollars.
Yeah. It's so when you go putting fiber or coax or whatever in areas that are undeveloped and have no trees, not a big deal. But to go push those down through tree roots that's been in the ground since the 70s, some of those are big trees.
Oh yeah.
I've seen some of the cable that went in the 70s. I used to have cable replaced, the old lead and paper. I was used to work for Los Alamos National Laboratory in their data communications department, and had to have old lead and paper overhead wire replaced with underground and overhead wire. And underground they have what they call gel filled.
Right.
Anymore, all that copper has kind of gone away, and they use newer technologies for putting communications facilities to homes.
I think it's interesting that we have such a large copper infrastructure that's going to be abandoned someday, and it won't be that long.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
You can't. It doesn't pay you to pull it out. It's not worth it. And I've seen. We opened one of those boxes. I was with the telephone guy, and there's wires that the insulation is falling off of.
Oh yeah, it's old stuff.
And now if they'd have put a different kind of cable in the ground, and they'd put what they call gel filled, which they literally took and put a gel around so water and such couldn't get into those wires.
Yeah, it's impervious.
That'd have been much better off. But again, it's all about the money.
There you go. Well, Jerry, do you have a website or do you have a Facebook page or anything that people can go to and learn a little bit more about you or communicate with you in one way or another if they have questions or anything?
Yeah, I haven't done that so far. I need to do that.
Okay.
I have, I maintain websites for our high school of 65 years ago. I still write that newsletter.
Okay.
Maintain the email list and maintain a website. The new thing seems to be put things on social media.
Right.
And,
social media is big.
Depends upon part of the problem. Put something on Facebook. You put it on, and it ages out. Somebody puts stuff on. You may have something you want to stay up front, and it's not. You have to figure out how to embed that in a picture or something. I belong to an electric train club. I just got into trains. I've had one. My dad got it for me. It was a 1933 train he gave me when I was 6 years old. So
I had a great Lionel train set when I was a kid.
Yeah, they're fun. Of course,
yeah.
I was born after 1933.
Yeah.
But this was after the war, and when Dad gave that to me.
Nice.
But and I helped them start a Facebook page and a website.
Okay.
And websites, the more you pay, the better you get. Let me put it that way.
That's
Still,
for
again,
sure.
all about the money. You can get free stuff.
So how would the average voter get a hold of you, though, if they hadn't quite made a decision for position 3 yet, and they just maybe had an additional question that we haven't covered? Is there any way they can get in touch with you? Cell phone number or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like half the world don't know my cell phone.
Yeah.
We were, for the parade one year, we're coming in from Humble, and it's after dark, and that's back when they had that huge LED sign by the gas station right there on 1485 and 59, and I looked up there, and here goes my name. then here goes my phone number.
That's pretty good.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, when they were remodeling, they actually cut the wires that went to that LED sign. That's why it's no longer functional. It's too bad because it was really a pretty good marquee. So
now I need to start, and I probably need to do that post haste to go in and set a Jerry Reasner for election or whatever on Facebook, and then people can comment. And if they want to send me something nice thing about, well, not everybody. I know a number of people says I don't do social media, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But to have something, a person can go in and if they don't want it on social media, there's a messaging function on Facebook that they can send a person a message, just person to person, just like you'd make a phone call, person to person.
Okay. Well, Jerry, I appreciate you coming in. This was a good conversation. I think you're a great candidate. I think you'd make a good council person.
Well, thank you.
So, and we also appreciate all the dedication that you've given the city over the years. And it's been a very positive thing and a good thing. And not everybody gets involved. They don't take the time. Yeah. And so anytime anybody takes the time to get involved in their community and try to do some good, I'm behind them 100%.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No problem. Do you have any closing remarks you'd like to make? A plea to the voters to vote for you? I would. It'd be like, vote for me, please.
Vote for me, yes. I think that's a typical thing. My only comment is I'll do the best job I can and help the city. And I've listened to several people that has comments that as time goes on, not a lot of time, but because I even haven't had a chance hardly even talk to Tim Underwood since I've talked to some of these folks.
Okay.
And there's a couple of concerns that I'm going to pass on to him because I'm sure he would want to know. And, to have somebody say something to me and broadcast it all over the world, I like to have a little more confidentiality.
I got you. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, too. That's great. Okay.
So, but, vote for me. I'll try to do a good job for you, and that's all I can promise.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Jerry Reasner. He has been involved in the city of Roman Forest for many years. He's done a lot of good stuff, and now he's decided to throw his hat in the ring and run for city council, position number 3. So election day is November the 7th.
Early voting, I think, starts on the 24th, but I'd have to go back and read that.
I think it does. So be careful how you vote. It's very important that you vote for a person or an individual who has the same thought processes about things that you do. It's the only way we can ever get out of the problems that we're in government. And remember, guys, we can't control what's going on in Washington as much as we'd like to, but we can control what happens with our local city governments. I'm Hank Vatt. This is Hank's Think Tank, and we're out.